Uhuru friends and comrades. As I said at the end of my last video, today's episode will be on calendar hacks and keeping a calendar that actually works for you. But not only will we be going over calendar hacks, but also planner hacks and to-do list hacks. Have some very special guests because last weekend was the USM National Convention of Make America Pay Reparations, and I got to interview a lot of different comrades on how they keep their calendars, their to-do lists, their planners, and get stuff done. My comrades gave so many great tips and tricks that I decided to turn this video into 2 videos so you can hear all of them and decide which work best for you. This includes a video interview with Hallie Murray, who is a member of the African People's Solidarity Committee and the USM Northern Regional Coordinator and local chair of Boston. Hallie is going to talk to you about some calendar and planner hacks.
Uhuru!
In this first episode, I'll also be going over my own tips and tricks for you. Now, on with the show.
Welcome to Reparations Wednesdays, Cooking and Lifestyle Hacks with Jackson.
Uhuru, this is Jackson.
I'm a proud member of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement. The Uhuru Solidarity Movement is the mass organization of white people working under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party, organizing in the white community to win other white people like ourselves to a stand in principled material solidarity with African self-determination, national liberation, and reparations. Our job is to win white people to raise resources that go towards the African-led economic development and political programs of the African People's Socialist Party as a concrete expression of our commitment to reparations to African people. USM is the mass organization of the African People's Solidarity Committee. The African People's Solidarity Committee is a constituent organization of the African People's Socialist Party. The African People's Socialist Party leads the overall Uhuru movement, of which USM is a part. Uhuru means freedom in Swahili. The Uhuru movement is organizing and uniting African people around the world as one people to liberate and unify Africa and African people everywhere under the leadership of the African working class. USM is a mass organization of primarily white people and others who stand in solidarity with the Uhuru movement. USM builds events, fundraisers, outreach activities, speaking tours, and national campaigns to raise resources as material solidarity with the Uhuru movement's African community-led self-determination and economic development projects. As a concrete expression of our unity with reparations. The USM 3 principles of unity are that 1. We work under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party. 2. We recognize that African people have the right to lead their own struggle. And 3. We work in the white community for reparations. I am making this YouTube series as my reparations challenge, one of many fundraisers held by members and supporters of USM to raise reparations to African people. Now let's get started.
The first hack I want to give you is from Chair Jessie Neville, who in turn got it from Stephanie Midler. And Stephanie Midler is of the African People's Solidarity Committee and is over the Uhuru Furniture Store in Oakland. And her advice that she gave to Chair Jessie Neville, that I got from Chair Jessie Neville, is that find a system that works for you, even if it looks ridiculous. It doesn't matter if someone else would look at it and be like, oh my god, I could never do that. If it works for you, do it. This is why I decided to talk with all sorts of different people in the movement to find what works for them, because you might find that one of their tips works for you. My first tip is to not get caught up in all the sorts of different ways to do it, but to just start, and through starting, through trial and error, you'll find what best works for you. Now, someone had asked Marie Kondo, the Japanese organizing consultant, how she planned her day, how she prioritized things and got things done. And she said that she thought about her life goals and she thought about what she would like to accomplish in 10 years, in 5 years, in a year, and from there broke it down by month, and from that to week, and from there to day and daily tasks. And that way she always kept right ahead of herself what her goals were, what her priorities were, and didn't get caught up in miscellaneous details, that she had the long view. and broke that down to short-term steps to get there. Of course, in the Uhuru movement, we have the long-term goal of African liberation of a socialist world, and that is laid out by Chairman Omali Yeshitela of the African People's Socialist Party and by the African People's Socialist Party and African Socialist International in the 14-point platform, in books and pamphlets, and most recently the book Vanguard, The Advanced Attachment, which lays out the plan for the next 5 years of the African People's Socialist Party in order to reach that goal of a liberated Africa. And Chairman has written on what a liberated Africa will look like. And so, from there, the leaders of the African People's Socialist Party break down the goals that the chairman sets out in Vanguard into real, concrete plans of action, and goals are set, and those get broken down into all sorts of different levels. Okay, so the goal for the Uhuru Solidarity Movement for this year, 2019, is to raise $150,000 in reparations. So how do we do that? Break it down by month, by region, by city, by outreach table, by event, and that's how we take care of our goals. We have different meetings and committees and create action items in order to fulfill those goals. And so similar, but a little bit more revolutionary, is how we do that in the Uhuru movement. The Uhuru movement recognizes that you can't have a revolution without the people, and that the people are the greatest resource. And so, those of us who are in solidarity with African liberation, we see ourselves as a part of the arsenal of this Black Power movement, and it's important that we take care of ourselves. And so, it's important that we eat healthy, that we go to the gym or work out, that we take care of ourselves physically, mentally, psychologically. In fact, part of the African pledge that is said at a lot of the rallies of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, which is the mass organization of the African People's Socialist Party. In the African pledge, it says that African people, but that can be also used for anyone in solidarity with African liberation, is that we need to be physically, mentally, and psychologically strong. And so, in addition to doing our action items, we also need to brush our teeth and do all the important things that we need to do. So my first tip is, before you go to bed, before you wind down too much, before you get too tired, before your energy starts to really decline after dinner or whatever, that you sit down, and I like to have a little cup of tea, so I have Hedwig with me. Nice herbal tea that won't keep you up, but it's a nice relaxing thing to calm down and plan out everything you need to plan out. So now I'll introduce you to my tools. 1, you'll need a pen. 2, calendar. 3, legal pad. 4, smaller notebook for your to-do list. 5, notebook. 6, highlighter. 7, sticky notes. So now I want to go to my interview with Hallie Murray, who was kind enough to take a little break from logistics coordination at the Uhuru Solidarity Movement's National Convention and go over the Uhuru Planet calendar. Uhuru everyone, this is Hallie Murray, and we are in front of the beautiful Uhuru House here in St. Louis, the beautiful Aquaba Hall, and we are at the USM National Convention, Make America Pay Reparations. There we are. You can get your shirt at planetuhuru.org. .com. Okay, and the same with the calendars, which Hallie is going to talk to you about some calendar and planner hacks.
Uhuru, thanks Jackson for asking me to be part of your show for the Reparations Challenge. Yeah, my name's Hallie, and I'm a maker, artist. I make a ton of stuff, and I was making zines for a long time, like personal magazines, and making calendars is something I've been doing for the last 6 years just personally. They were a lot smaller, but this is just, photocopied on paper. So I made each page as a collage using different scrap paper and drawings and, just measuring out the days of the year. And as an organizer in Uhuru Solidarity Movement, like this doesn't leave my body, because we're always making dates, we're making meetings. You have to have your calendar if you're going to be an organizer. So, and I assumed there were other people out there who also needed to track at least something in the year. So I made one, especially for people who don't use like Google Calendar. Like, I need to have a paper one. So I made this. So it's not only a calendar with like writing dates for the year, but I made one last year selling on the Art for Reparations project, and this year as well. And this year I upgraded to have more space for action items, which we had it last year, but I reduced the space for this to make space for historical dates in history, revolutionary leaders who've been assassinated. And each page of the year has 1 or 2 points on the platform of the African People's Socialist Party. So for February, I have the African Martyrs Day, when Malcolm X was assassinated on February 21st. And there's I just took from the Burning Spear newspaper. Like, that's best life hack of all. Just read the Burning Spear and your life will change. And then one of my favorite pages is the first page before you get to the calendar. This is just useful information. I put a colonial map of Africa, the one we currently know. These are all colonial borders that don't exist, but we know it as today. I also have the calendar for the year. This is a menstrual calendar for anyone out there who menstruates regularly or irregularly. You can I saw this like 10 years ago in some old zine, but I thought I'd bring it back. It's the months in the year, and then the row goes to 28 days, and then it wraps around. So you see that ends on 28, and then it goes to 29, 30, 31. And wow, I haven't been keeping track of mine. You know what? I have, but this is the one for sale. Yeah. I'm like, this is a very clean calendar. But it's so useful because, if your period was on January 10th, then you would know that 28 days later the calendar wraps around. You could, if you knew you had a regular period, you could have it then. So other life hacks are, I have like ounces to pounds things. I have the inches scale here and centimeters that, if you just need to measure stuff on the fly, you can just take out your calendar and find a measurement for something. And there's some other things in here too, so you can get this at planetuhuru.com if you're interested. And I encourage any white artists out there to make art for reparations. Take the reparations challenge, use your skills, use your talents, access to resources to make art that can be used for the African Revolution. So thank you, Jackson, for having me on your show today.
Uhuru. So I use my calendar for big, important dates. I use it to count down the days, but also for, I have the convention on here, I have birthdays on here, important meetings that I may be likely to forget that aren't, weekly. And if it's just an especially out of the ordinary thing, I circle it so I don't forget, and things like that. So I definitely use mine a lot. So the big dates on here and crossing things off. So the calendar is more for monthly things. I use a legal pad for weekly. So I use a legal pad for weekly things. Now I'm going to show you the Hallie Murray way, which is to have it vertical. I usually actually have it horizontal, but same concept of, you write down the category of what you need done. So, example, for the USM Tours Committee, I'll write down that, I'll usually write down the day that something is due. And so I'll write down, I'm just, using this as an example, by Tuesday, the 23rd, to email Mara about Instagram. I'm just making that up there and misspelling Instagram. So you'll write down, that for that category, and then, for USM St. Pete branch, I'll write down to, by Wednesday, 24th, to call potential venues before event. And, you'll go from there. And what she did was, as if I recall correctly, on this side, she had more home stuff. So, for home or personal to, by end of week, cut the lawn, things like that. So, and to have it a little bit separate of, maybe, your business or movement stuff over here, any personal stuff over here, send mom birthday card. I'm just using that as an example. Or, got the date. I like to use pen because it's easier for me to see. It's bolder than a pencil, which tends to smudge, etc. So I always leave room for me to, write little notes or cross something out, etc. So, my mom's birthday already happened, but, that's an example of things. So then you just write everything out and list it like that. Before I had done it horizontally, but I'm going to try the Hallie Murray method of doing your weekly to-do list. And then for daily to-do list, I use a smaller one that I'm, from the monthly to the weekly to the daily. And I just carry these around with me in a backpack, honestly. But, you could, just, take care of all of this prior and just have your to-do list with you in your pocket, in a smaller notebook, or, use your phone if you're more of a phone person or a tech person. I find that it's easier for me to write things down because it just stays in my brain better. There's a lot of science about that writing things down is better for our memory, better for our brains. It really gets us, it makes it more of a physical experience as opposed to pushing buttons. So for Hallie and myself, and others like us, we like to, have things, written down on paper, but of course there's a lot of other ways too. And I did talk about having a notebook, and a notebook is just for notes, for anything that you want to take down and remember, perhaps during a meeting to, write down little things that then you'll transfer to one of these later on. This is very useful. You always want to have a notebook with you if you're a busy person like that. And then I did mention sticky notes. And sticky notes, you can, you need, to cover over something, or if it's a maybe thing, you can have a sticky note that you can later remove or whatever. But I tend to use sticky notes. There's a lot of ways to use them, but I tend to do things like, Jackson, take out the trash and put it on my fridge in the morning so I don't forget to take out the trash in the morning. Things like that, just reminders, or put it on your mirror to do something. Things that may not even need to be on one of these lists at all. I get reminders on my phone from the city of St. Pete, Florida to take out the trash. So, when I get those reminders, I can make a little note for myself, put it on the fridge, and not forget about it. And then highlighters, instead of crossing something out when you're done, I'm going to try this thing I just learned from a number of sources. But instead of, crossing something out when you're done with it, to highlight it. And what that does is just highlights what you've done, and it feels very productive. And you're like, wow, I did that thing. And then you can look back at your list from the day or the week and be like, wow, look what all I've done. Because a lot of people, they don't finish their to-do lists. Some people have even stopped using to-do lists because it's more of a wish list then, and that doesn't work out well. But you want to have your to-do list real, and this is your daily one, so you don't want to put too many things on there that you're gonna forget about and get demoralized later or not keep up with it. Your to-do list, I think you should look at a number of times in the day, not just morning and evening, but lunchtime, if you have a long break where you can pull it out, and just go down from most important to not as important, or if something needs to be done chronologically, use your best judgment. But then you'll have thing A, thing B, thing C, and to be able to go down and highlight each one, it stands out, because when you cross something out, then it can be harder to read later on. We're like, hey, did I do that thing? Or it just, I don't know, some people get a lot of satisfaction from doing the whole thing. It makes them feel good. But to be able to, I think, read the thing that you got done really well and be like, wow, that was done. And then I also think that just having pure black and white, it doesn't make things stand out as much. And so when you did something and did that thing, then it makes a difference between what's done and what's not done, as opposed to, I don't like using check marks and things like that, because with a check mark, I don't know, it's not as it doesn't work for me to be able to just do a check mark on the side, because then I don't know, it's easy for me to, I don't know, my eyes and my brain don't compute as well. Okay, this thing is done, and yeah, there's the cool little you did that thing, but then there's no difference for the line of text that some things I like to write out in detail, and it'll be 3 things long, and then there's a little check mark over here, and you're there's still it doesn't really cover up everything. So to be able to highlight everything, it's okay, this entire box is done. Awesome. So that's what I do.
It's important for us to recognize as white people that everything we have, including our time, comes at the expense of African people. Think of every minute an African child in the Congo is forced to mine coltan. Think of every minute that an African person inside the US in prisons is forced to make all kinds of products from Nike and Victoria's Secret, etc., forced to make those in prison for us. That is stolen time away from their families, away from their communities, away from themselves. And it's a really horrible thing, that stolen time. And we steal time from African people in all sorts of other ways as well. And there's been lots of studies showing that African people generally get less sleep than us, or less better quality sleep if they're able to sleep. And life under colonialism is a really horrible thing. And for us, parasitically living on that as a society, as white culture, there's a huge stark difference between the time of white people and the time or lack of time of African people. I encourage everyone not just to pay reparations in the form of money, but reparations in the form of our time. One of the ways you can volunteer is by joining the Uhuru NTU Volunteer Brigade for the Black Power Blueprint. Go to blackpowerblueprint.org to sign up. I really want to express my appreciation for everyone who has been donating, everyone who has been sharing, subscribing. I really want to appreciate all of you for tuning in and for supporting this reparations challenge. Every episode has a goal of $50 in reparations. Please donate at uhurusolidarity.org and put in the comments that it is for Reparations Wednesdays. What questions do you have? Leave a comment. Thank you for watching part 1 of Calendar, Planner, and To-Do List Hacks. In part 2, we will be hearing from all of the other comrades I got to interview and talk with at the USM National Convention. Thank you for watching Reparations Wednesdays, Cooking and Lifestyle Hacks with Jackson.